Okay, listen. I know there's gonna be all these big flash in the pan up and coming groups at the Battle of the Bands next week. All I'm saying is I don't want to go on before sirloin in the barbecue game. Is that too big of a request to make?
Not when you're the best band gonna be there. And I'll tell you another thing, there is no way that I'm going on before Crash and the Bandicoots.
Well,
You
let me
hear
tell you one thing. There is no way that the Crushing Melons are going to go on before Marceline's Playground.
Excuse me. I think you meant to say I smell Tex-Mex and candy after that. And also, just what are you implying here?
Maybe he means that he's old, like the other guy, and he wants to go to bed early. Or maybe he's like me, and he has a curfew because the other guy's a buttface, and he should get kicked in the dongle.
Oh, Buttface is actually entering his band into the competition, too.
What? Are you kidding me? Beaver and the Buttface are entering as well. Oh, that's just great. They're gonna be our biggest competition now.
Biggest competition. Oh, you're serious?
Excuse me? What's so funny? I don't think you understand. Our motto is, we here, we balladeers, get used to it.
No, look, I wasn't laughing because what you said's incorrect. They are your biggest competition, for third place.
How dare you? Look, I don't know where third place is, but I know it ain't first, so you better take that back right.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're not good at what you do. I'm just saying what you do doesn't matter. Plus, we're a good band. Crushing Melody.
Oh, yes, they are pretty good.
Shut up, Snobs. You know what? Just give me your
What
club.
for?
Just give it to me.
Okay, here. Oh, what was that for?
You're lucky I didn't kick you in the boing-a-loings, you jerk.
Slap the crap out of you with your yellow disc glass.
I challenge you to a duel.
Fine. Are we talking Yu-Gi-Oh or are we talking Beyblades?
No, you fool. I mean a real duel.
Fine, you fool. Pick your poison. You want to do pistols at sunset, swords at sunrise, maces in the morning, boxing gloves at dusk.
Ooh, I like the sound of that one.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about here. Just give me a second, because I gotta think about it. But your fate's sealed, mister. Okay, look, we need to talk here. I done slapped the fool with his own glove.
何今の
What do you mean you don't understand? I just told you. I done challenged the guy to a duel, and now I gotta fight him with pistols, or magic cards, or Pokemans, or something. I don't even know anymore.
おい待ってよ
No, I can't wait. You don't understand. I done did this thing. Things are in motion that can't be undone.
なんてひどい
Look, I can't have you being scared. You gotta be brave for both of us, because I have no idea what I'm doing here.
みんなの前で私を恥ずかしがらせて
Look, nobody's saying it's your fault, baby. I just need some ideas here, because the well's running a little dry.
やっぱり夢じゃなかったんだ
Yes, I already considered kicking him in the doigaloing and the boigaloings, but I can't do that because it would be bad style because I already slapped him with his own glove.
ここで星を見よ
No, that is not an option. No, that is not an option.
うどっか行け
No, I am not. Look, the last time I put the Spice Crown on, people got hurt. The meat man went down. We're lucky he's even back.
この先に何があるのかわからない
It's easy for you to say. I'm sure we'd all like to think that, Urbamoto, but here in the real world, we gotta take other people into consideration. Shaka Khan! Oh, sorry. Did you say something to me?
Yeah? Who are you talking to, you incessant fool?
Urbamoto, my girlfriend.
Oh, pitching the old woo, are we?
Oh, stop him. I only do that because I can't whistle very good.
What are you talking about?
I mean, I can't whistle, see? I only got one tooth, so it's kind of hard to whistle.
That you idiot! Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Urbamoto. She's real, you know. She gives me advice sometimes. And sometimes when I gotta make big life decisions, I gotta tell her because we got plans. Yeah, plans for the future.
Okay, well, did Motorola tell you how we're gonna duel?
Well, she wanted me to put on the Spice Crown and waste you, honey, and I've been thinking about it, and to be pistols at sundown really is the only way to
Yeah,
go.
sunset's a good time. I mean, it's cool. Bugs aren't too bad. There's a nice breeze that goes across your midriff. But I was thinking more like, what about swords at sunrise?
Look, I mean, you can do swords at sunrise if you want, but if you do, I'm not gonna be there, because this guy doesn't get up till about midday. Know what I'm saying?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't know I had to play around your schedule. I mean, you are the one that challenged me. Shouldn't I get to pick?
Well, maybe your band shouldn't have offended my musical sensibilities by being so crappy.
Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't suck mustard off of a hot dog.
You take that back.
No, it's okay, Simon. I do that. 'Cause I'm a mustard aficionado. I know, it's kind of messed up. I made a meat and I eat hot dogs, but ain't nobody else gonna eat those weenies. That's just gonna go to waste.
All right, you ready to go?
Yep. Here we go.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to It's Just a Regular Show About the Regular Show. I'm your Hey, Leroy,
Well, that ain't
you
my
think you
name,
could
you jerk.
stop spitting all over my gear? Yeah, you kind of damage it when you do that.
Don't you tell me how to turn a knob, slop jockey. Any monkey can do it.
I'm starting to feel like you're more of a hindrance than you are a help.
Wow. Ain't you got no perseverance?
You mean perseverance?
No, I mean perseverance, as in my perseverance check for when you get fed up with me and send me away.
Why would I have that?
Because that's how I make a living, dipwad.
You know, I hate to say this, but I would rather have Simon here right now.
Well, I'm his pimp. He called the big guns in while he's off dueling.
Wait, he hired you to do his work while he went to another Yu-Gi-Oh
Hey,
tournament.
Come here. I don't think you can hear me. Are you stupid or something? No, you idiot. They doing pistols at sunset.
So he's found another card game. Pistols at Sunset. What a name. What about Beef One?
He went too. Said Simon's gonna be needing him a stuntman.
What about Schnapps?
Well, Simon said he's gonna be needing him a judge to watch over the proceedings and whatnot.
The bald guy. What's his name?
Fun. You mean Kmart?
Yeah, Kmart. Where's he at?
Simon said he needs someone there to make him feel better about himself in case he lost.
Ready, steady, fire.
Eat this, you coward!
Yeah, well, I've not yet begun to fight.
Stop! This really turning out doo-doo. We need to do something. We need Ben Tramer here or something. Whose idea was it to do boomboxes at the break of day?
I'm not sure, but I'm ready to go again. Don't you count me out yet.
Don't worry, I haven't, 'cause I can't count.
Yeah, you know what? Just never mind. Mine was clearly superior.
No, mine is in 5.1 surround sound.
Oh, you fool! Such an inferior format. Mine was in Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, but did you check it in mono for phase cancellation?
Yeah, your mama checked my motto for face cancellation.
What does that even mean?
I'm not quite sure. I got it from your Uncle Rico comeback movie thing.
He's right, Simon. It was one of the bonus features.
You know who else checks mono for phase cancellation?
Oh, who invited that guy?
Guys, this is crazy. We shouldn't be doing this, okay? Look, I just realized something. No matter how bad we feel, we can always look at Kmart and realize he's a bigger loser.
Hey, Simon's right, everybody. We can always do the thing that he's talking about. Except for you, Kmart. Just you him, boy. You know what to talk about. You know what to talk about, boy.
And we are a go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to It's Just a Regular Show About the Regular Show. I'm your host, that guy with a name that's awkward to say, so I'm not going to say it. That's okay, and that's how it is every time, and let's get to it. So since the last time we talked, I've started watching Adventure Time again. I skipped season 1 because, well, it's just not as good as the other seasons. There's a few gems in there, but very similar to the regular show. There's not the best episodes in the first season, and none of the character development had happened yet. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Not a whole lot more, though, so don't worry. But I've burned through about 3 seasons of that sucker, starting on season 2, and I think I've gotten through the 5th season, which is like 50 episodes long, so been doing quite a bit of watching while I'm playing the guitar or something. Such an easy show to watch through, and it's held up pretty doggone well. And the story's really getting good at this point. But anyway, I say all that to say what I'm going to do when I start talking about these regular show episodes is I'm going to look back like I used to, and I've been forgetting to do, like I used to on the night of airing on the schedule for the Cartoon Network. And I'm going to look at some of the episodes that I'm familiar with and see what the lineup's like. And I'm going to kind of do a side by side comparison as to which show I think, quote, won out that evening. I think it might be kind of fun. It gives me a good. This is just probably the best time ever to do it because I'm doing a retrospective on this show and I'm actually watching through Adventure Time sort of simultaneously. So it'll be kind of fun. There does come a point where Adventure Time, it's kind of akin it to the Monday Night Wars for wrestling. When I was a kid, used to watch, the WCW, WWF wrestling. It was fun to flip back and forth and to see who won out and all that and all the retrospective. Now, for the next little bit, and really pretty much since I've started saying these regular show episodes have gotten good, most of those nights the regular show would have won out, in my opinion. But there comes a point in Adventure Time, it builds up to it. So the episodes start getting pretty good. You have these one-off episodes where they're like, man, they're really good. And they usually involve Ice King, quite honestly. There's a few of them that don't. But they build up to a point of a Christmas special. I think it might be season 3 Christmas special, maybe season 4. I'm not sure. But they do something with the character of Ice King for a Christmas special, which is, kind of like in any other series, it'd be like not a throwaway, but almost like a non-canonical episode. They do something that completely shifts the entire show. They kind of pull the rug out from underneath you, so to speak, and it completely changes the character of the Ice King, and it opens up all of these storylines. And I don't even know if they meant to do it, but it's such a great episode because they're setting up all these jokes about Ice King and all these goofy things he's doing. And it's so fantastic because at the time you're laughing. It's like, man, he's crazy. And then you see why he's doing it. And all of a sudden, don't get me wrong, the jokes are still funny, but you kind of feel like you really feel sorry for the character and kind of quasi you feel like a jerk too for laughing at it. But don't get me wrong, the stuff's still funny. But like that, initially they didn't. I don't think they intended for the character to be like that. The show grew with its fans, and the fans had a lot of input on this stuff. They kind of did some world building. I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go in depth on it. But Ice King was kind of, you could tell in the first season he was supposed to be this, not a one-off villain, but more like for Batman, he wasn't the Joker, so to speak. He was more like the Penguin. You could kind of tell he was meant to show up maybe once every 7-10 episodes, kind of do his goofy thing, be like a one-note character, which and that one note was great that they had him do in the first season. He was wacky, and it was almost like there was no rhyme or reason. But he becomes so much more. Honestly, I think he becomes the best character in the show, and that's kind of evidenced by his involvement in Cake and Fiona. But yeah, he's got to, in my opinion, he's got to be the best character in the show, and it's kind of because of what they did with him. He's such a dynamic character, and it's just such a I don't know. It's like the perfect storm of everything. He is representative of. Well, I said I wouldn't get too much into this, so yeah, I'm just going to move on from there. But for right now, the regular show would be winning out. But once they hit that point in Adventure Time, there's a good chunk of it where it's going to either be neck and neck or Adventure Time's probably going to win out because there for a brief period, the storytelling in Adventure Time comes along as well as all the character development and everything. And it's some of the finest storytelling there is. So it's going to be close. And that's great because that just gives me an excuse to watch both series. Anyway, right now the regular show is winning out. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I looked at the schedule, and the episode of Adventure Time this week was like Belly of the Beast, and it's about like these bears. There's a bear. He shows up later in Billy's bucket list when Finn's doing the rap battle with Rap Bear, which is horrible, but it's intentionally horrible. But yeah, this Belly of the Beast episode, it didn't do it for me. And the Go With Me episode before that was better, but it would have lost. It definitely would have lost out to This Is My Jam from regular show. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and tell you, the regular show this week wins out. This week's I went this long and not told you the episode. This week's episode is Muscle Woman, and I mentioned it last week. I was kind of dreading reviewing this one, but when I go back and watch it, there's so many good things in it that it's like, it's a good episode. I think it's got a lot of selling points to it. Now, this episode does set up a trend of the Muscle Man Starla type episodes. That's the only way I know how to label them. The quote Muscle Man Starla episodes. And these episodes are always going to be a particular type of humor. They're always going to try to gross you out. I shouldn't say always, but the majority of the time they're going to try to gross you out. One of them's going to make a really stupid decision, like an absolutely horrible decision. Usually Muscle Man's going to cry, and usually he's going to do something to prove his love to Starla. And a lot of times it's hilarious. Like I'm thinking of one where they break into a radio station and he writes the song called Starla. It's way towards the end of the series, but I think it's a riff on the Rolling Stones' Angie, but I'm not sure. I can't tell. But this episode aired April 4th, 2011 in the U.S. It aired September 21st, 2011 in the U.K. Production code 214. Directed by Mike Roth. Written and storyboarded by Benton Connor and Calvin Wong. Now, maybe Calvin Wong I've seen recently. I don't recall seeing Benton Connor recently. Maybe he replaced the person that went to Gravity Falls. I can't remember if that was Shion Takeuchi or not, but maybe he replaced that person. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is following up a really good episode, so we'll see if his writings can match. Maybe he wrote that one too. I don't know, or storyboarded it, whatever. Anyway, synopsis: Mordecai dates Muscle Man's ex-girlfriend Starla in an attempt to get the two back together. You can already kind of tell what type of episode this is going to be, and yeah, it, the voice is Mordecai and High Five's ghost J.G. Quintel. So we're getting J.G. Quintel to voice High Five's ghost more often now at this point, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking they start to do like the reverb on his voice, the gated type of reverb on his voice now. I'm not sure. They were doing like a phaser or something early on when High Five's ghost would rarely speak. Anyway, Rigby, William Salyers, Muscle Man, Benson, and the ever important stalwart character of Reporter, voiced by Sam Marin, and Starla is voiced by Courtney Taylor. Or Courtenay Taylor. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Courtney, but it's spelled like Courtenay. I can't criticize other people's name spelling. Just look at mine. My gosh. Ugh. Uh, anyway, Courtney or Courtenay Taylor voices Starla, does a pretty doggone good job. Easy for you to say. Let's see. Pop culture. We'll get all that out of the way at the end. Trivia and pop culture. Yeah, I forgot about this. They set up another storyline that I don't know if it was meant to be revisited or not later on, but they set up another storyline for another episode in this one. Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this episode unless anybody has any objections, at which point I'm assuming you would just flip this podcast off. If you've even made it this far, thank you if you listen past the first 45 seconds. That's usually my average listen time. I have no pride. All right, so let's start this bad boy off. Starts off with the birds tweeting and everything, and we open up in the park, so it is appropriate for those birds to be tweeting. And the first thing we see is a pair of like cutting shears cut like some leaves off of a bush. And Rigby's just like, woo, done. And he clips it and, in your face, bush. And he's like doing, the whole hook shot type point where he's pointing down on it, like 3 feet over his head. So, and Mordecai's doing the same thing, but he's not getting much done. And Rigby's like, you got, looks like you got a ways to go there, guy. And he goes, not as much as Muscle Man. Look at that. He looks like he's barely touched that bush over there. And we see the camera shifts to Muscle Man's back, and you just see him kind of holding the shears, and all you see is his back. And yes, I realized that was redundant and awkward phrasing. I'm not going back and erasing it. Anyway, it's not as awkward as what we're about to see. So he's over there, and he takes the shears to one leaf, and he like starts to press down on it, and it barely touches the leaf. And he's like, and he pulls them away, and he starts like crying into his arm, into his sleeve, and they're like, "Hey, Muscle Man, we got work to do." And, wait, are you crying? And he turns around and he gets, defensive. He's like, "No, I'm not crying. Only ladies cry like you. I don't cry." And then the next thing we see, brace yourselves. The next thing we see is him sitting in the shower. And I mean, like everything's cut up, but it's just so covered up, but it's so like grotesque looking. He's just sitting there in the shower, holding onto his knees, like huddled up, crying. And his skin's getting all pruny, and he's just sitting there, and it kind of indicates he's been in there for a while. And Mordecai and Rigby get fed up with it, and they go over there, and we see him knock on his camper door. And I'm wondering if the art for Muscle Man's campers changed over time. I need to start paying more attention to that. It seems like it has slightly, but right here we see the things on blocks. It still has a fender on the back, or bumper, whatever. It's got an antenna coming out of it, a red stripe across it, or an orange. And Hank Hill would be proud it has 2 propane tanks hooked up to the front. So, yeah, and it had a wheel, but like the rotor looks like it's still on it, but there's no tire, no wheel, nothing like that. But anyway, they come up and they knock on the door, and they're all like, "Dude, he's been in there for hours," and they're banging on the door, and we look in there, or the camera goes into the trailer, I want to say trailer, the camper, whatever it is, Muscle Man's residence, and we're looking around. You see like trash scattered all over there, which is, typical for Muscle Man. Pizza box on the floor, and there's like a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon poster on the wall. At least, I guess in the regular show universe, that's what it would equate to. It's a prism refracting light. And Mordecai's like, "Muscle Man, are you taking a shower so we can't hear you cry?" And it goes back to Muscle Man. He goes, "No." And this line's great. He says, "It's just the sound of the water hitting the drain." And I thought that was great, because it's like, really? Who's going to believe that crap? And then Mordecai, he's all, "I wonder what's wrong with him." And then High Five's ghost comes out of nowhere. High Five ghost, I'm sorry. And it is J.G. Quintel voicing him, and they do have a little bit of the reverb on him, but it doesn't sound like he typically does. But he informs them that his girlfriend Starla dumped him last night. And yeah, it doesn't sound like the voice is still yet to change. A lot of these voices are kind of settling into where they will stay for the majority of the show. You know how, well, probably, if you watch a show from the beginning to the end, the voice actor's voice just naturally changes, and even from show to show, they're not going to hit the exact same timbre. I mean, Tom Kenny, I mentioned him, something I recorded that was in season 1 about Tom Kenny. Yeah, WB or whoever needs to get off their butts and renew Fiona and Cake, which they did. There's another season coming, which I don't know if it'll be out or not by the time this comes out. I hope it is. But anyway, Tom Kenny, is irreplaceable as he is at Ice King. His voice isn't always the same. It changes, like it from episode to episode, especially the early episodes of Adventure Time to like the mid seasons. It changes quite a bit. He goes from like nasally to a little bit lower pitched and more gruff. And he sometimes goes back to that higher nasally pitch thing. And you know what? I mean, it's awesome. And when he yells, he kind of yells. Sometimes he yells like you would think that Ice King would yell, like gruff or like through his nose. And sometimes when he yells, it's like what you would think SpongeBob would yell like, or what SpongeBob does yell like. That's kind of like Tom Kenny's yell, you know. So he does both, and I think that's great. Like that's awesome dynamic voice acting, in my opinion, and it gives more of a range, and it's kind of like, yeah, these guys, they're not 100% consistent. Dana Snyder is another example, which Aqua Teen's been going on for forever. Um, but yeah, uh, episode to episode, Dave Willis was the same. All those characters on there, Carl and Meatwad, both their voices would change like from episode to episode. They still had the same vibe, and they would go back and forth. But it was like you had a lower pitched Meatwad and you had a higher pitched Meatwad, and it would just depend on which episode it was that you'd be hearing. Master Shake, you had a very nasally Master Shake, and you had, especially now, you have a much lower pitched, maybe not much lower pitched, but a more lower pitched, throatier type of sound from Master Shake. And I think that's got to do with just the voice actors aging. It's still, their character, and like nobody can do it like them. Voices just naturally change. Mike Judge, King of the Hill, Hank Hill's voice definitely changes from the beginning of the show towards the end. Dale Gribble's the same way. And point is, I'm taking the long boat I'm taking the slow boat from China here. But point of this is that these voice actors are still. Well, I think actually that it's not an age thing at this point. They're just still finding the groove for some of these characters. And High Fives Ghost being a relatively newly speaking character, he JG Quintel's still kind of finding the sweet spot for that voice. So sorry for the long ramble there, but I don't know. Sometimes they happen. Anyway, so he says his girlfriend Starla just dumped him yesterday or last night or something, and Rigby comes back with, Muscle Man has a girlfriend, and he says, I wonder who has more junk in the trunk. And Mordecai, he just kind of rolls his eyes, and he finds all of this ridiculous because for some reason, uncharacteristically, Mordecai wants to get his work done. So he's like, we can talk about it if you want. And Muscle Man just yells out, no, I don't talk about my feelings with nobody. Double negative. I don't think he uses a double negative, but whatever. I'm a horrible paraphraser. So they're like, fine, let's let Benson deal with it. And the next thing we see is they're outside of the garage of the house. Benson's got his clipboard, does a screen wipe. And he says, so it's come to my attention that Muscle Man doesn't want to work because he's sad or something, And they're all like, he's like, so you two clowns get to pick up his work for the day. And Ruth says, oh, I'm sad too. And Mordecai's like, do we got to pick up his work or do we got to work? Because we're sad too. And he says, you'll have to file a complaint with the human resource officer. Who's that? And he says, me. And then Mordecai says, so can we get off of work? And he says, no. So you can see where this is going. Here's the conflict. Mordecai and Rigby don't really care at this point that Muscle Man's been dumped. They don't want to do his work. So Benson goes on to list their tasks that they have to do. And task number 1, dig up the old rotten stump in the park, watch out for the hornet's nest. So we find out that Muscle Man's work is, this is kind of humorous as it goes on, but they're digging up the stump and they start to pick it up and hornets fly out of it. Okay, so we got kind of slapstick type comedy. The second thing, you need to kick out the old dude living at the park who thinks under the bridge that thinks he's a knight or whatever. And it cuts over to this guy, and we don't really see much of him. We just kind of see his face. He's got this fortress of mattresses, and he's shaking his fist, and they're throwing cans at him, trying to get him out, and he's shaking his fist at him. And we find out later that this is what I was talking about. They're setting up another episode, another storyline, and it is, let's see, Sir Gablethorpe. Okay, so he appears on more than just this episode. He has his own episode dedicated to him, but he makes a couple other appearances, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the first appearance of Sir Gablethorpe. He thinks he's a knight. We find out later on he's got like an oatmeal can on his head. That's his helmet. But says, however, his name wouldn't be revealed until the episode Ace Balthazar Lives. So Ace Balthazar, that's If you think about it, that's most likely he's in a band. I can't remember the band's name, but it's uh, most likely a Kiss type band, and Ace Balthazar being kind of like Ace Frehley. I'm not sure about that though, so don't quote me on that one. Anyway, they have their conflict with him, and then the last thing this is like, and lastly, you got to rake the Zen garden. This is kind of ridiculous because there's like a legitimate Zen garden with two stumps in it. Mordecai and Rigby got the rakes in the sand, and they're making the circles. And there's like this traditional looking Japanese hut with, the stone walkway, like the stepping stone type walkway. And it's just humorous to think that Muscle Man every day goes to this Zen garden, stands on this stump, and spends all the time raking it, and then carefully makes his way off of it. Like that would imply Muscle Man has some sort of grace to him or whatever. And if you've seen him in a lot of the episodes, like when he gets hit in the face and he runs, I can't remember the episode. Rigby like he spills his cereal on his face or something, and Muscle Man flips the table and he's running around on the floor and he runs into the wall. I mean, he's just not what you think of. He's not the epitome of grace. Let's just put it that way. And to think that he goes in and he has the grace and the tranquility and the zen to tend to this sand garden is I don't know. It's just kind of humorous. It's one of those jokes that would it flies by your head the first time you think about it, but when you think this is Muscle Man normally doing this, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of clever. So the last part of that joke is, I'm not going to miss this job. Take raking that, and then they jump off the stump and they start walking out of the sand garden. And he said, raking that garden or raking that sand took for, and they look back and they realize they've walked over the sand and they no. It's a really Simpson type of joke, one of those just quick little ironic type situations that you kind of see coming. It's kind of a predictable joke. I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess if I was making a cartoon, I'd kind of feel like, well, it's obligatory. I've got to throw this in here just because, you know, one of the famous authors, I can't remember his name, famous writer, if there's an axe on the wall in a book and it doesn't get used by the end, then it's a crime, something of that nature. But you got a Zen garden with sand. If you don't walk through it and mess it up, then you just have to. You don't put that in a cartoon without it happening. Unless it's Aqua Teen, they may do that just because they like to subvert expectations. But anyway, we wipe to the next scene, and Muscle Man's sitting there eating straight out of the canister. I think it says Muscle Maker 3000, and it's got like a picture of a chef bodybuilder, and he's got like the white hat on, and it says Get Buff at the top, and like this, flashy type print, like a camera flash type, image. And Mordecai, he's just eating it by the spoonful. And Mordecai and Rigby come up, and they're like, Muscle Man, come on, you got to get over this. And he's like, I can't go to work. I'm busy stuffing my pie hole or my face or something. And one thing about this, like these products in like 2011, I never bought these products because I kind of feel fortunate because I got into doing a lot of that stuff sort of after the initial phase of like Cell Tech and all the Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman ads for Muscle Tech back in the early aughts, or um, back when weight gainers and things were big, which they were big they always have their phases. They were big in the 80s and the 90s. But like the last, I think, true era of these traditional type of weight gainers was around the late aughts, maybe right around the time of this show, 2011. But these products, basically what they were, they would have every serving would have like basically, and they're all going to be different, but basically they'd have sort of like an individual serving of protein, like a single serving, somewhere between 50 to 20 grams. If you were lucky, 30 grams of protein. Sometimes it'd be a blend. Most of the time it would be like just whey concentrate, which was, I mean, nowadays it's like if you're getting whey concentrate, it's like that's like bottom dollar stuff, even though the price of supplements have gone through the roof again due to inflation and all that jazz. I'm not going to get into that, but sometimes these products would have, like in the case of Cell Tech, they would have creatine in them. and then they would spike this crap with like a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs, and it was usually just like dextrose, which is basically just sugar. And it was a fast digesting sugar. Table sugar, I think, is a mixture of dextrose and sucrose. This is like you take half of the table sugar molecule, dextrose, which is really fast. And the reasoning behind it was, well, it's going to help you absorb the creatine by spiking your insulin really high post workout. But yeah, not all of them had that, but most of the time, some of them didn't have creatine. But it was like, yeah, if you're gonna gain weight, you just need the calories, bro. Which I mean, is true. Law of thermodynamics: calories taken in versus calories expended. But I think in my opinion, there's just better ways to do it than just eating a crap ton of sugar. But anyway, so yeah, the goal was to have like in each serving you've got 800 calories, and it was just their solution to that was just bog it down with a bunch of sugar. You'd have fats in there too, but not many. It was just mainly just dextrose. Anyway, that's what Muscle Man's snacking on here, and he's just eating it by the spoonful right out of the canister. So it's like maybe he needs to evaluate his lifestyle choices. I don't know. So Mordecai and Rigby take Muscle Man out to see that there are, quote, more than one fish in the sea. So the first place, well, the only place they take him, as far as I can tell, thus far, is the grocery store. And this kind of reminds me a lot of Boomhauer taking Bobby to the mall to pick up women. Anyway, they take her there. They're like, the grocery store has tons of single women. And the camera goes to the inside, and most mercenaries like, I don't know, Mordecai. How do you know any of these ladies are single? And he says, I don't know, Mordecai. None of these ladies are as hot as Starla. And he goes, come on. He goes, check out that lady over there. She's single. And he goes, how can you tell? And he goes, look at the items in her cart. American cheese singles, a single serving of soup, and the soup can says soup 4-1 on it. And who buys a single banana? And there's a single banana. He goes over there, he goes, I don't see no ring on their finger. Go get her, or something like that. And Muscle Man walks over there and he's like, hey, you're a chick. And he pauses and like she's just looking at him, and he starts crying. He goes, I can't do this. And he gets down on his knees and rips his shirt. And there's a tattoo that says Starla. And like, I don't know what the font is, but it was, I don't know. It's just one of these, I guess, quote, fancier looking fonts. But he says, this heart beats for another. And he screams it out. And he's just crying. And the lady just she doesn't roll her eyes or anything. She just walks off, pushes her buggy off. And then the very next thing, we cut right back to Muscle Man in the shower again. And it's almost like they recycled the footage. He's laying there on the floor, just crying, and the water's hitting him. And we're not really hearing him cry. We're hearing the water hit the drain, is what we're hearing. Anyway, so once again, just following the pattern, Rigby's like, it's no good. He's never going to come out. There's nothing we can do to help him. And then again, High Fives comes up, and he's all, there is one way. We got to get him back together with Starla. And it's just funny how the voice has even changed since the first time he talked in this episode. And I was just telling you about Bobby and Boomhauer going to the mall to pick up chicks. What a coincidence. We also cut to the mall, but not just any mall, no sir or no ma'am. Two Peaks Mall, which the shot, I think this is two homages here. The shot is definitely, in my opinion, an homage to Back to the Future. The Two Pines Mall or the Twin Pines Mall or whatever. Even just the camera shot of the parking lot, the way the sign's set up, the cars in it, and even the light poles, it looks very similar to the Back to the Future mall that they have. I think in both of them, I guess, are the first two. I'm pretty sure, obviously the first one, at least. There's a digital clock on it. It's 1:16 p.m., I think. I don't know if that's from the show or not, or the movie. But I also think that this is sort of an homage to Twin Peaks. What's the guy's name? David. It just slipped my mind. I can't remember now. The guy that did Twin Peaks. I'm not going to go on here rambling about me not being able to remember. I did watch that show probably 2 years back, and oh man, what a show that is! I don't even know how to explain it. I may have talked about it before. I'm pretty sure I did on Turtles Forever. if you watch that show in 2 episodes, you will see the gamut of acting skills being displayed. I'm talking the good, the bad, the ugly. You'll see every type of bad acting that there is. And I think a lot of that's intentional. But yeah, you will see every type of bad acting, and, and there's something about it though. The aesthetic of that show is like it's so weird. I can see how it's highly influential. I can see how it influenced Silent Hill, that game Deadly Premonition, obviously. I mean, I can understand it. Like, I don't care much for the show, honestly, but I can see how just, I don't know the word used, I guess the texture of the show, just the way that the music fits in. The music almost seems like it just doesn't fit. Like, it's just very, it feels like it was made for something else. The introduction, crap. That introduction feels like it's 4.5 minutes long. I mean, whew, uh, and just the show is just so weird. But like, I get it though. Like, I can understand. Like, even if it's not for you, there's something to take away from that show. And as awkward as the show is, there is a little bit of genius in it. Like, maybe there's a lot that I'm missing. I don't know, but yeah, I saw that and I'm like, what the crap is this? And that's saying a lot coming from, uh, I don't know, some of the junk I make. But anyway, yeah, the Two Peaks Mall. I would imagine, the regular show having some of its surreal type um, scenery and scenes and whatnot has at least a little bit to owe to Twin Peaks. So yeah. Anyway, we go inside to where Starla is working at Icy Hot Jewelry and Apparel, and they walk in, and we have like this techno type music. And first thing Rigby says, he's like, everything's all looks all glittery for girls. And then he walks into Starla. And I don't know how to go about like saying this. Like, first thing I want to say about Starla here is the show does its best to make her out to be um, grotesque, but like it does its best to make her out to be like somebody that you don't sympathize with and that you don't like. She ends up, in my opinion, being a pretty good character, quite honestly. But like the reasons that they do this, I think honestly, the first one, this episode in this way doesn't age all that well, but they do some like they do poke fun at like Starla's figure at this. Like this first scene right here, Rigby, he basically walks into Starla and it looks like he about gets swallowed by her stomach. Now, I've had to go back and redo this section several times because I don't want to get political. I mean, I'm trying to be sensitive to everybody's feelings here, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm commenting on this and I don't know how to approach it. I'm definitely not trying to white knight this and virtue signal because I can't stand that. And I'm also, um, I, I guess what I need to say here is even though they make this episode, one of the centerpieces of this episode is Starla and Muscle Man's figures. And a lot of their episodes do revolve around that. But one thing, I'm just going to it's not really a spoiler. Well, I guess it is, but maybe not in this episode. By the end of this series, you see that one of the things about this show is that it's not afraid to do this because it shows in the end that regardless of in this case, these characters' figures or their health or however they appear, they can appear ridiculous, out of shape, they can appear whatever. There are redeeming qualities about every one of these characters that far, far trump whatever, um, whatever shortcomings people may initially find with them. So, anyway, let's move on. So Mordecai, he's like, "Hey, do you know a guy?" Or first off, she says, "Can I help you?" And I gotta commend Courtney Taylor for her performance in this because her voice, she's made it real like gravelly or gruff, kind of like Muscle Man's is, but just obviously in a female, um, you know, female type of timbre, whatever. She's the female version of Muscle Man, basically. That's kind of, I mean, pretty much that's what this character is. But he's like, do you know a guy by the name of Muscle Man? He's about your build. And she's like, yeah, I dumped that loser, blah, 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 And he's like, well, you should get back together with him again because he's human and he has a heart. And he puts his hand up to his chest and he starts saying all these things. And Starla starts to lose focus and she sees these stars around Mordecai's eyes and his eyes start kind of, getting real shiny or they get like the glare of light in them. And then you hear like 80s synth pop start playing. And it's like this real short, it's not really a montage, but it's just like this short little, almost like a little tiny vignette or just a tiny segment where she doesn't hear like anything he's really saying. She just sees these images and hears the music and she starts like she's got like a crush on him. And then the music ends though and he goes, and that's why I think you should go back out with Muscle Man. And he starts to walk off. She runs up and she grabs, she's like, wait, you have such a way with words. Mitch never wanted to talk like that. Or I think she calls him Mitch at this point. He never wanted to talk about his feelings, but she keeps going on and on. And he's like, and he's like, I gotta go. And he grabs it, he yanks his hand away and he walks out. And he walks out like, and he puts his hands up like he's just got sprayed on the shirt with water or something's fell on his shirt. His arms are out real wide. He goes, ugh, sick. And Rigby's like, oh, she liked you. She's pointing, and Five Ghost is just smiling. And he's like, shut up. And he's like, you should go out with her. And he says, I'd rather do Muscle Man's work to go out with her. And the more I think about it, this is kind of appropriate for this episode because um, Mordecai's not developed as a character yet. I mean, quite honestly, he's still an immature character because he knows nothing about Starla except for basically she has the build of Muscle Man. Which, I guess, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Whatever. But they kind of concoct a plan that, hey, maybe you can, if you get to know her or whatever, you can get her to go back out with Muscle Man. And she, at this point, has jumped up on the window and she's got her face pressed against the window, smiling, like leaning back and forth against the window. And he walks back in and he's like, hey, and it cuts to her face and it's just like her eyes are really wide and her mouth's open and she's kind of on bated breath and he's like, you want to go out or something? And she jumps and grabs her. She's like, yes. So a montage starts at this point. We get our obligatory montage and it's the song playing is one of the originals I'm guessing that they wrote, but it kind of sounds inspired by The Cure, Friday I'm in Love, which is a song that they use later on. And it's not the melody, and it's not even really the rhythm. It's just the reverby, twangy type of guitar that they use. Um, it just puts me in mind of that type of song. Anyway, the stuff that they do in the montage is first they go to the taco truck, Taco Clock, which is a callback to the Muscle Man episode. And I think she starts laughing and ends up spitting a taco all over Mordecai's face or something. And then Mordecai and Rigby work the snack bar, and Starla drives by or rides by on a bike. She's got a pink headband on, and she waves. And he kind of like, I think that they hide underneath the snack bar. I think something ends up getting thrown in there at him somehow. I don't know. But the next one, they're at a ball game, and Starla just devours a turkey leg off of the bone. It's like Master Shake on that one episode of Aqua Teen. She ate the meat and then she wait yeah, she ate the meat and then she went back for the bone or something like that. He's like, you would enjoy that a lot more if you quit inhaling them. Anyway, yeah, this kind of puts me in mind of that. So Mordecai's like embarrassed to be with him, and then they pop up on the Kisso vision, and Starla tries to like jump on Mordecai and kiss him, and he's trying to fight her off. And then the next one's the best. They go to the beach. Starla rolls over, and I guess she wants Mordecai to rub like tanning lotion on her back or something. And you look, and she's got all these tattoos on her lower back. And the first one says, Muscle Man in cursive writing, and it's marked out. And these are all tattoos. Next one says Steve in that same looking font that Muscle Man had Starla tattooed across his chest. That one's marked out. Underneath it, it says Muscle Man in block letters, and that one's X'd out. And then it says Mordecai. And it's got it's got hearts on both sides of his name, and it's got like these flowers branching out to the side of it. And that's as much as I'm going to say about that. So we cut to the coffee shop, and Rigby's like, "Have you?" They come up with a plan. They're like, "You've got to dump her." He's like, "Fine, I'll dump her." They go inside, and the wiki page mentions that ironically Margaret's not here, which is kind of weird because this appears on, I guess, the DVD box set of that is themed the Margaret plus Mordecai plus Margaret DVD set or whatever. Even though Mordecai or Margaret's not in this episode, so whatever. I'm not even going to focus on that. But like, they're eating pie, and this scene kind of gets you too when you're watching in headphones because Starla's not eating any of the pie. Mordecai's like, all you hear is him chomping down the pie, you know, and I mean that's gross enough as is. But Starla's sitting there like licking her lips, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And she said, or no, he doesn't say that. She says, "You got some pie on your lip. Here, I'll get it for you." She jumps over the table and she starts like kissing him. He's like, "Ah, get off." And she goes, "What's wrong, Dumpling?" And he says, "I'll tell you what's wrong." He said, "I don't like you." And then there's like a delay effect. It repeats it several times. It goes, "Like you, like you, like you." And it kind of like gets a little bit closer to her face every time he says it. And finally you realize it's sunk in. And he goes, "I think we should not see each other or whatever." And he just gets up and walks off. And you kind of feel sorry for Starla at this point in the episode because it's like she didn't do anything to him, you know? Like it's his fault. He's I don't know. He's kind of playing it off like which I guess props to him for not using old George Costanza. It's not you, it's me type thing. But at the same time, it's like he's kind of I get it. He doesn't like her and he's not attracted to her at all, but he's he's he led her to believe that he was. So whatever. Um, this is getting a lot deeper than I guess the regular show should get. This is not a music episode, okay? This is not one of those you can't touch music where music can touch you episodes, okay? Should not be going to these places. Anyway, gets up and he walks out of the restaurant or the coffee shop, and Ruby's like, "Dumped," and he goes, "Dumped." He says, "How'd she take it?" "I think pretty good." And then all of a sudden you see a chair, or not a chair, but a table come flying out of the window, and it almost crushes them. They get out of the way. And then the side of the building blows up, like explodes. And Starla's silhouette comes walking out of the rubble. And then she like roars like Godzilla or something. And this is where the episode, I mean, this is the surreal part, obviously. We're like, what, 7, 8 minutes into the episode. They run to the golf cart, though, and they're like, "Go, go, 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 go." And Starla takes off running at him. And this has got to be a reference to the T-1000 in Terminator 2. Just her arm motions, the way that she's moving looks so similar to the way that, what's his name, Robert Patrick runs. That dude could scoot in that movie, too. I mean, I reckon he was actually chasing after the bike and doing a halfway decent job of keeping up with it, too. So props to that guy. Anyway, this is the part where the T-1000, where Arnold and John Connor and Sarah Connor's in I don't know if it's a cop car or just a car, but the T-1000 chases him and turns his arms into hooks and grabs onto the back of the car. This has got to be an homage to that or a reference something. They're driving the golf cart, and Starla runs up and she grabs a hold of the back of the golf cart. And yes, the Simpsons did it first, you know, "Go faster, Nettie. I can't. It's a GO." You know, because Homer had the golf clubs or whatever and that blank stare in his face. But this has got to be like the same type of reference. I mean, it's just such an iconic scene. It's like, I don't know. That well doesn't run dry, I don't think. But anyway, and she latches onto the golf cart and they're like sliding around. She starts to crawl up into it. And Mordecai's like, "Hold on." And he swerves the cart and it throws her off into a pile of trash. And Ruby says, "Yeah, she just got trashed." And then you see Starla come running up again. And here's another reference. This one is to Jurassic Park, the classic T-Rex chasing the Jeep, and Jeff Goldblum must go faster, go faster, go faster. And you see in the mirror, it says objects in mirror closer than they appear. Just about every cartoon's done some iteration of that too. And even like movies like Toy Story 2 did that as well with Rex. But Starla's in this one, and she's just running up to the mirror. So there you go. There's like several references to different pop culture in this episode. So that's pretty cool, I think. So here's where things start to kind of get cool. Starla is ramming the side of the golf cart, and they are approaching the park. And the golf cart looks like it's moving at like snail's pace. But anyway, they start driving it, and Starla she walks to the gates of the park, and she starts getting like these, completely supernatural abilities. She stomps the ground, and it causes the ground to like quake, and like, fault lines appear, and it like swallows the golf cart, and Mordecai and Rigby jump out of it, and they barely make it. They're running, and then Starla leaps up in the air, and this is really cool. She comes down, or she lands, she hits the ground, and it's like a shockwave that cuts the trees in half. And like the sound effect that they use sounds really good in headphones. It's just like, and it launches trees everywhere, and they go and they actually hit Sir Oglethorpe's mattress fort. So we actually do see the oatmeal can on top of his head. And they kind of hint that this is the crazy thing. Like, they put this much detail to him ahead of time. So I don't know if they planned to do an episode with him, but he opens up a portal to like another realm that's got like this castle and these horses, and he jumps through to it. And like, that's it. That's the last we see of him in that episode, or in this episode. But they keep running, okay? And Starla chases them to a fountain. They run around the fountain, and she busts through it just like Wario off of, the Wario games, where he'd bust through the blocks. And then they get to the snack bar, and they're hiding behind I'm assuming it's the restroom beside it. Starla picks up a tree and launches it and crushes it, and they keep running. She throws another tree at him, and they're just running. And then we see a helicopter flying by, and it was like, we're standing by watching a crazed woman destroy. I don't remember exactly what they say, but she picks up a boulder, and like the animation just looks great. She picks it up, puts it on her shoulder, twirls around, and shot puts it into the helicopter and just like destroys it with the guy still in it. And it catches fire, and just like kaboom. And she's running, and it lands behind her. So like, she's running really fast too, because she threw that rock quite a ways. They finally get up to Muscle Man's trailer, and they're banging on it. They're like, Muscle Man, you gotta help. Your ex is going crazy, and she's wrecking up the park. And we cut back to Muscle Man once again, the rule of threes. He's still sitting in the shower. And he's like, huh? Starla? And they take off running because you hear something incoming. And it's Starla, where she jumped again, and she like drop kicks the trailer and rips it in half and creates a crater. When she lands, she gets up and she just kind of like shakes her head, like, that kind of fazed me, but not really. And she gets up. And here's something I didn't notice the first several times I watched this. Muscle Man walks out of, I just noticed this when I played it back. Muscle Man walks out of his shower. And there is another Pink Floyd poster on the wall, the Wish You Were Here album, at least what would be in this universe. Hanging there. I'm sure that I saw that and thought, hey, that image looks so familiar, of a man shaking another man's hand. The other dude's on fire and he's in a suit. I'm pretty sure that's the Wish You Were Here album, because that's the one that's kind of like the tribute to Syd Barrett after he left. So I'm not sure if Shine On You Crazy Diamonds on that one, but Wish You Were Here is definitely on that one, and that song is about Syd Barrett. But anyway, there we go. 2 Pink Floyd references in the same episode. Pretty cool. So we see the destruction that Starla has caused. She's wrecked 3 or 4 cars. They're on fire. Like, the fountain's a wreck. It's like an aerial type view. The golf cart's flipped. And we cut to, she's at the house, and she's got like a post or something, a light post or something. She's using it as a battering ram to open up the door. And the guys are inside, and they've got Mordecai and Rigby are inside, and they've got like the door barricaded with furniture, and they're like, well, I guess this is it. And then the door gets busted open, and she's got these red eyes, and she's about to like, end them. And Muscle Man's like, Starla, he's like, you've got to quit or something. And he's like, fine, I guess I'll just go. And Mordecai says, dude, Muscle Man, she's right there. Say something to her. And he goes, fine. Starla, I think you're foxy when you break things. And he goes, no, something from here or from the heart or something. And he's like, fine. He gives off this speech. He's like, you remind me of somebody, blah, 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 when you break things. And that somebody is me, Mitch Sorenstein. And then Rigby, I believe, is like, his name's Mitch. But, um, the while he's saying this, it's another one of those like music type things while he's talking, except you can hear the words that he's saying. She couldn't hear the words that Mordecai was saying. She hears the words that Mitch is saying. And the song that's playing, it sounded familiar, and I'm pretty sure, just off the top of my head, it has kind of the melody of Knocking on Heaven's Door. It also has that vibe of Patience to it, and that it whistles at the beginning by Guns N' Roses. And then it also has Scorpion Wind of Change type influence. At least that's what it sounds like to me. I'm not sure, but it sounds like if you put those three songs in a blender and poured it out into a glass, that's what you would have is the Mitch Sorenstein song that plays while he's giving his speech to Starla. So he's ending the speech, and some of the things he says is like, "You're the light of my life, the fire of my heart, the one, Starla." And he goes, "Will you be my muscle woman?" And she's like, "Oh, Mitch, yeah." Well. And they start running towards each other, and then we see things that we don't need to see. And I'm just going to skip ahead about 10 seconds because I just don't want to describe it. Mordecai and Rigby say, "Oh, sick." And um, he says, "You know who else does?" Most of says, "You know who else doesn't like to talk about their feelings?" And obviously, we get the my mom. That's the first my mom joke of the episode. And she's like, "Oh, Mitch, you have the funniest sense of humor." So it's like everybody else is fed up with the freaking my mom jokes, in the series, but Starla isn't. So it's like right there. That's just kind of that's they are one of them's got a brand new pair of roller skates and the other one's got a brand new key, I guess, whatever. Um, but she jumps into his arms and he starts to carry her off and he goes, "Oh baby, I like it when you break property." They start to walk off in the sunset, like everything's on fire and crap. And I think it's Mordecai says, as much as I want to vomit right now, those two were made for each other or something like that. And Rigby says, "Yeah." And the camera starts to like zoom away and he says, "This has been the most disturbing day of my life." And then one of them says, "Yeah, we probably should have just done Muscle Man's chores." And that's the end of the episode. So there, like I was saying, there was a lot of reservations I had about reviewing this episode, which is, I don't know. It is what it is. They made it, not me. And honestly, there's a lot of things about this episode I don't like, but there are a lot of cool things about this episode. Oh, wait. It does mention right here in the pop culture references, it says, in Muscle Man's trailer, a poster comes scene of the album The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Guess what? They didn't catch the Wish You Were Here album. So, haha, it is worth listening to this podcast for something, getting that extra 1%. Um, let's see. Other pop culture references. During the cart chase, Rigby yelling, "Go faster, must go faster," as Starla bashes herself into the cart is a reference to Jurassic Park. Yeah, okay. I caught that one. And then the objects in the mirror thing, yeah. Two Peaks Mall is a reference to the name Twin Pines Mall from the movie Back to the Future, which later in the movie became Lone Pine Mall because Marty hits one of the trees when he goes back in time. When the car crashes into one of the trees, it knocks him over, so there's only one pine. Production notes. This episode received 1.422 million views, which is the least amount of views in season 2. So I don't know if that's a reflection of people not liking This Is My Jam, which I loved that episode, or if maybe the trailers or the commercials for this episode, commercials for this episode were kind of off-putting. I don't know. So I don't know. I think this episode does warrant more than 1.422 million views because that does seem kind of low compared to some of the other high points we've seen. Yeah, I don't know. I do still think this is better than Belly of the Beast on Adventure Time. That episode just doesn't, nothing really stands out in it to me. It seems like there's some really good filler episodes on Adventure Time, as are there in regular show. I mean, let's face it, probably half of regular show is filler episodes, but they're just done really well. This is kind of a filler episode. Um, but in the battle of the filler episodes, I think this one wins out over the Adventure Time, at least this week. Um, I look forward to many more contentions, though. And who knows, maybe Mystery Incorporated, if it was airing at this time, or if it was a new episode were premiering at this time, maybe some of them will end up being better from what I remember. Anyway, I don't know. That's all subjective on the part of this rambling moron. Let's see. On the episode commentary, Paula Spence reveals that J.G. Quintel planned on not digitally adding Muscle Man with nipples as he considered it to be funnier. Okay. Uh, that is what it is. Goofs. The doorknob changed to a door handle every now and then. When Starla grabs Mordecai's hand, her hand is colored as a regular human. When she moves her palm around Mordecai's hand, it returns to her green skin color. That's kind of like Scooby-Doo. I think he used to have like a purple paw or something every once in a while on the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon, which I also love. Scooby-Doo's another one of them definite top 10 franchises for me. Let's see here. It says, it is odd how Margaret does not appear in this episode. We've already talked about that. I've mentioned that they said that on here. And it says, here's my gripe with this. It says, Margaret should have seen Mordecai being kissed by Starla as he would have been caught cheating on her. No, I don't think so. I don't think Mordecai was dating Margaret at this time in the show. So, once again, unless I'm mistaken, it would not be the first time, probably in the past 5 minutes that I've been mistaken, but unless I'm mistaken, there's another merit for another reason to listen to this show. In one scene where Starla is chasing Mordecai to Rigby, the sky changes from light red to its original shade. It says this was spotted in the episode commentary, and then I talk about that DVD pack. The alternate versions in the UK, I guess we're going to be talking about censorship here. Starla trying to kiss Mordecai was edited to only show Mordecai's reaction. The part freezes when Starla's butt is just about to come in. I guess that's when she jumps over the table. Muscle Man and Starla running towards each other in slow motion was cut. I can understand why that's censored. That's the thing. And then they talk about Muscle Man and Starla kissing. That's the other thing I chose not to talk about towards the end of the episode. I can kind of see why that was censored. It just, yeah, that's about all I got for this episode. Overall, I guess, my overall rating for this one would probably be about a 6.5. It's better than I thought it would be. There's a lot of things in there that I thought that bring it up. That introduction of Oglethorpe, whether or not it was intentional or not, I think it was just a good move. Maybe it was a happy accident. I don't know. Something tells me it wasn't, though, just because of that portal he jumped in. The multiple references. This kind of feels like one of those episodes are like, hey, we've got a lot of these movie references that we want to make, but we don't have any place to really fit them in. So let's put them in right here. And I think that's cool. You know what? Good for them. That's great. I enjoy that type of stuff. So this kind of feels like the Thanksgiving leftovers of the regular show or something. That type of episode. They made something out of leftover stuff and they attached a story about Muscle Man and Starla. And you know what? I'm all for it. Whatever, because it sets up some really good Muscle Man episodes, actually. Two in particular I can think of that are specifically focusing on Muscle Man, but Starla plays a definite role in those. So, one of them especially, the one great character development moment for Muscle Man, I'm not going to give away, but and then that radio show episode I'm talking about. So the next episode is Temp Check, and it is This was another one kind of like Muscle Woman that I thought I don't want to review this one. Just a brief overview of it. Like somebody comes in and he's like a temporary worker for Rigby. Rigby he outsources his work, and it leads to some hilarity. But there's a lot of jokes in this one that I had forgotten about that just kind of hit you out of nowhere, and I thought it's worth it. This episode's worth it to watch just for that. And quite honestly, I don't know why I didn't care for this episode before because I actually enjoy it. I enjoyed it when I watched it. So I'm gonna look real quick just to see what the views on were for it were. It received more views. Well, obviously, because just that was the lowest season 2. But this episode received 1.689 million views. So I don't know if that's a reflection of people sort of enjoying Muscle Woman, or once again, if it was the commercials for this. But I just I don't want to give away anything about this episode. There's something that just hits you just completely out of nowhere, and it's like, who would think to put that in a cartoon? What were they doing? Which, I mean, if you think about uh, what's the show, the thing that J.G. Quintel did, 4 a.m. in the p.m. or 6 a.m. in the p.m. That first one he did with like the Benson and Mordecai characters. I mean, I'm thinking those were influenced by acid or something, is the rumor at least. So, I mean, I guess like that type of just out of nowhere humor that we're going to talk about in the next episode, like it's not beyond them to think of. I'm not saying they were under the influence of anything, but um, just creative minds, I guess. You could take things that just I don't know. I don't know. It's low hanging fruit, but it's not like low hanging fruit in obvious view where you would that you would necessarily think of. But anyway, that's all I got. Appreciate you all listening to the show, and if you want to join the Discord, feel free to. We don't have anybody at this point that I'm. I think there's one member counting me. No, there's actually 2. I think nothing ever. I never get a request for it though. I've been putting the link up here and there. Um, would love to have more people on it, but whatever. If you want to send me a message, well, it's not me, but my interns will get it. I put the link up before, but it's let's see, texmexandcandy@gmail.com, I think. Mainly I've just, not me, but my interns have been saying that they forward them to me and I read them because those, I don't know how they got such a large vocabulary because they can't even read, but they can't count either. But they forward them to me, and like I try to tell them, guys, this is just spam mail. People trying to sell me like SEO services or something, not site enhancement oil, like you know, uh, get more traffic on your website. And I'm like, I don't have a website. I don't really respond. But anyway, look forward to hearing any reviews, feedback, any whatever you got. I love hearing from people, even though I haven't up to this point. But it would be nice to know that the 8 people that are listening are actually listening, or that they, would like to give them some sort of input of some sort. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point, and until next time, everybody have a good one.